let's speak about storytelling, because it comes in many forms. And at the end of the day, I'm a filmmaker, but at the root of filmmaking is storytelling. And I appreciate all kinds of storytelling. I look for any story well told in my life. I really do, no matter if it's a novel, a film, a TV show, somebody talking to me, or in music. And Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City stands as a modern masterpiece in storytelling, but it doesn't exist in a vacuum. Lamar draws from a rich tradition of narrative art, building on the techniques and themes explored by storytellers in cinema, literature, and other mediums. By doing so, he not only pays homage to these traditions, but pushes the boundaries of what can be achieved through narrative music. In the process, Lamar offers lessons that storytellers across all mediums can learn from, particularly how he blends personal experiences with universal themes and how he engages his audience both intellectually and emotionally. What this album does is not only build on elements of rap that MCs have been implementing since the Genesis, but builds on storytelling elements that have been refined for centuries, bridging literature, cinema, and theater. In creating Good Kid, Mad City, Lamar successfully bridges all three of these worlds, crafting an album that operates on multiple artistic levels. A lot of storytellers can learn from this album. In literature, the use of the personal as a gateway to the universal is a time-honored technique exemplified by works ranging from James Joyce's A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, or to Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Like these literary giants, Lamar uses his personal experiences growing up in Compton as a foundation for a story that speaks to broader human conditions like youth, identity, morality, and redemption. The thematic depth of Lamar's album achieves a literary quality that invites close reading and critical analysis, just as a great novel would. Now, from the world of cinema, Lamar adapts strategies of filmmakers known for their innovative storytelling. One of the most interesting things about Good Kid, Mad City is its structure. Lamar's use of nonlinear storytelling in Good Kid, Mad City draws the listener into the story by making them active participants in an unraveling story. Or at least that's what most people would have you believe. Since this album came out, everybody's been calling it a nonlinear story structure, and it's not really true. In fact, it uses a structure more in line with cinema than even the nonlinear story structure. But I'll get into that a little further in a second. The album, much like a film with its complex narrative structure, rewards repeated listens as new layers of meaning are uncovered with each play. Moreover, the album's skits and interludes serve as a form of cinematic exposition akin to how filmmakers use visual or auditory cues to provide context to delve into the internal world of their characters. These skits, featuring snippets of conversations, voice messages, and sounds from the street of Compton, provide a crucial backstory and emotional depth. The active moments of pause within the narrative, allowing the listeners to absorb the story's emotional weight while simultaneously advancing the plot.
He hit the one with the shenanigans in. I'm afraid he hit that.
In this way, Lamar demonstrates how sound alone can be just as powerful as visual storytelling, teaching filmmakers and other audiovisual storytellers the importance of a soundscape and voice in crafting a compelling narrative. For those in theater, Lamar's work emphasizes the importance of voice, rhythm, and timing, elements that are crucial in live performance, but often underutilized in recorded media. Kendrick Lamar's dynamic vocal delivery, which shifts tone, pace, and intensity, brings the characters and emotions of his story to life in a way that mirrors a performance of a stage actor. The theatricality in his delivery, combined with the dramatic structure of the album, shows how music can be used to create a performative experience that transcends boundaries of traditional recordings. Theater professionals can learn from Lamar's ability to convey character and narrative through vocal performance alone, using it to evoke strong emotional responses from the audience. Now, technically, none of these techniques are new in hip-hop. We've always had animated characters like a Busta Rhymes or an Eminem.
Women wave your pantyhose, sing the chorus, and it goes.
We've also had great storytellers like a Scarface or a Slick Rick. We've had rich musical landscapes coming from artists like Kanye West and Outkast. But the most substantial art often doesn't come from the inventor of something, but the innovator of something. Invention is the creation of something new, while innovation is the use of existing elements to elevate something to what it couldn't be before. It's the implementation and improvement of existing ideas. Both are important for the advancement of pretty much anything in any field, and they often go hand in hand, but in art, they don't necessarily need to. For instance, there's almost always been skits on hip-hop albums, but most of them are random with no connecting tissue, like these from Dr. Dre's The Chronic.
Apparently you don't understand.
I'm a working person, and
I'm working
just
too.
where is Dr.
$35 gift certificate to the Compton Swap Meet.
Great artists steal is a cliche and it's misleading. More accurately, it should be all artists steal, whether consciously or subconsciously. A great artist knows how to combine elements that came before them into something that feels unique for their time. Good Kid, mAAd City displays a level of depth and nuance often found in great novels. Lamar's lyrics are rich with metaphor, symbolism, and vivid imagery, inviting listeners to engage in close analysis and interpretation. The literary quality of Lamar's music is evident in his use of metaphor, symbolism, and narrative structure, which elevate the album beyond just mere storytelling to a work of art that demands critical analysis and interpretation. Like a great novel, the album rewards close listening with layers of meaning and subtext that reveal themselves with each subsequent play. Lamar's ability to blend the personal with the universal, the specific with the abstract, positions the album within the realm of great literary works. Songs like Sing About Me, Good Kid, and the deeply infectious Swimming Pools use elevated language and meaning to deepen the impact of the record, which novelists do all the time. Listen to this excerpt by Charles Dickens.
As soon as the great black velvet pall outside my little window was shot with grey, I got up and went downstairs, every board upon the way, and every crack in every board calling after me, "Stop, thief, and get up, Mrs. Joe." In the pantry, which was far more abundantly supplied than usual, owing to the season, I was very much alarmed by a hare hanging up by the heels, whom I rather thought I caught, when my back was half turned, winking. I had no time for verification, no time for selection, no time for anything, for I had no time to spare. I stole some bread, some rind of cheese, about half a jar of mincemeat, which I tied up in my pocket handkerchief with my last night's slice, some brandy from a stone bottle, which I decanted into a glass bottle I had secretly used for making that intoxicating fluid, Spanish licorice water, up in my room, diluting the stone bottle from a jug in the kitchen cupboard, a meat bone with very little on it, and a beautiful round compact pork pie. I was nearly going away without the pie, but I was tempted to mount upon a shelf to look what it was that was put away so carefully in a covered earthenware dish in a corner, and I found it was the pie, and I took it in the hope that it was not intended for early use and would not be missed for some time.
Now listen to this from Kendrick Lamar's The Art of Peer Pressure.
Me and my niggas 4 deep in a white Toyota, a quarter tank of gas, 1 pistol and orange soda. Janky stash box when the federales a roll up. Basketball shorts with the Gonzalez Park odor. We on the mission for bad bitches in trouble. I hope the universe love you today. Cause the energy we bring is sure to carry away a flock of positive activists that fill their body with hate if it's necessary. Bumping Jeezy first album looking distracted. Speaking language only we know, you think it's an accent. The windows roll down, all I see is a hand pass it. Hotboxing like George Foreman, grilling the masses of the working world. We pulled up on a bunch of working girls and asked them what they working with. Look at me, I got the blunt in my mouth. Usually I'm drug free, but shit, I'm with the homies.
Great writers of prose elevate the language to paint a picture, yes. Evoke emotion, of course, but also immerse the reader in the world that they're creating. Me and my niggas 4 deep in a white Toyota, quarter tank of gas, 1 pistol and orange soda, janky stash box when the federales will roll up, basketball shorts with the Gonzalez Park odor. You can see these elements in your head when you listen to the verse. You're in the van with them. You can smell the smell of outside perfuming their bodies. This type of elevated language isn't there in every single storytelling art form. For instance, in a movie, you don't need words to describe a scene because you can see it. In a stage play, you don't need elevated language to tell you what's going on because you can just look up and watch. This album is full of little literary nuances like this, sparking the listener's imagination and putting them in a new world that they may have never been in before. Lamar's ability to craft a narrative that is both deeply personal and widely relatable is akin to the work of novelists who use their characters' experiences to explore universal themes and truths about the human condition. You could say that the narrative is like a novel, revealing more information and deepening the meaning as it goes along, but it's not as simple as that. In fact, it's more cinematic than that. The structure of this isn't as loose as an album, it's more tight like a movie. Cinematically, Lamar explores techniques that make the album feel like an auditory film. The structure of the album, with its carefully sequenced tracks, mirrors the pacing and plot development of a well-crafted screenplay. Each song building on the one before it, with the narrative advancing through the dialogue, monologues, and atmospheric soundscapes. The use of sound, whether it's the ambient noises of the Compton streets, the shifts in Kendrick's vocal tone, or the cinematic production, creates a vivid sense of place and mood that is central to the story, sounds that elevate it beyond just the words that are being said. I guess now would be a good time to talk about the story structure, which is not strictly speaking non-linear. It's a Fabula syuzhet structure. And I'm sure most of you have never heard of this story structure before, but it's more common than you would think. Films like Fight Club, Casino, American Beauty, Goodfellas, Forrest Gump, and Citizen Kane are all prime examples. This structure comes to us from Russia, using terms that originated from Russian formalism and employed in narratology that describes narrative construction. The fabula is the meat of the story, while the syuzhet is the narration and how the story is organized. This specific screenplay structure, often used in American cinema, utilizes the original organization by showing the end first and having the audience view how we got there. For instance, in Goodfellas, we start like this.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Or in Fight Club, we start here.
People are always asking me if I know Tyler Durden.
If these films are structured in chronological order, these scenes come towards the end of the film. Just like these movies, Lamar employs this structure in Good Kid, Mad City. We start here with a prayer.
Lord God, I come to you a sinner, and I humbly repent for my sins.
Which is the emotional climax of the album. Then we go back to see how we got to this point. A nonlinear story structure will continuously jump out of order in order for the audience to piece together what happened. This doesn't do that. So in this instance, the fabula would be Kendrick getting stumped out over a bitch, leading to the prayer, which starts the album and ends Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. The narration would be the songs that lead up to the emotional climax and Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. But unlike a screenplay or a movie, the narration is longer than the actual scenes. The narration would be the songs getting us to the next scene, and they're coming in between the songs. The narration in a fabulous structure is what gives us the information about the world. It makes it more detailed and rich. For instance, in Goodfellas, when they do this.
And there was Anthony Stabile,
How you doing?
Frankie Carbone, Fat Andy, Frankie the Wop, Freddie No Nose, Pete the Killer, who was Sally Balls' brother, Nicky Eyes, Mikey Francesi, Jimmy Two Times, who got that nickname because he said everything twice, like,
I'm gonna go get the papers,
It paints the picture of the world that we're in, making it more rich for the audience. Kendrick Lamar uses this technique in a song like Mad City. This is the narration that's needed for a fabulous structure to move us forward. But you also have songs that could be interpreted as scenes themselves, like Money Trees. This song both mimics a scene and narration. In my mind, Money Trees is the thoughts and feelings of the characters in the album as they cruise around in Kendrick Lamar's mother's van. I can see them riding around the California streets, palm trees and danger, nice weather and violence right outside the windows. Cinematically, the album's story is structured like a well-paced screenplay, with each scene moving the album forward. But you can't quite pin it down as a movie either. Like I said, the use of soundscapes and vocal performance adds a layer of theatricality to it, making the album feel like a live performance even though it exists purely in the auditory realm. Kendrick's vocal performance is something that he's known for across all of his albums. Distorting, twisting, changing the pitch to fit the necessary sound of the song. Lamar's delivery is dynamic and varied, akin to that of a stage actor's performance when there's a shift in tone, pace, and intensity, conveying the emotions and inner thoughts of the characters. The theatricality of Lamar's performance, combined with the narrative arc of the album, makes Good Kid, Mad City feel like a live performance, even though it's only in the auditory domain. But what really strikes me as a stage play performance is Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. Each verse can be seen as a monologue being performed by a stage actor. Like, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Y'all have seen a play where the characters will stop everything and walk to the edge of the stage and give their inner monologue. It's like a Shakespearean soliloquy, you know what I'm talking about? You don't know what I'm talking about? Like this. I woke up this morning and I figured I'd call you. In case I'm not here tomorrow. I'm hoping that I can borrow a peace of mind. I'm behind on what's really important. My mind is really distorted. I find nothing but trouble in my life. Fortunate that you believe in a dream. This orphanage we call a ghetto is quite a routine. And last night was just another distraction or a reaction of what we consider madness. I know exactly what happened. You ran outside when you heard my brother cry for help. Held him like a newborn baby and made him feel like everything was all right. In a fight he tried to put up, but the type of bullet that stuck had went against his will. His blood spilled on your hands. My plan's rather vindictive. Everybody's a victim in my eyes. If I ride, it's a murderous rhythm, and outside became pitch black. A demon glued to my back, whispering, "Get him, I got him, and I ain't give a fuck." That same mentality had told my brother not to duck. In actuality, it's a trip how we trip off of colors. I wonder if I'll ever discover a passion like you and recover the life that I once knew as a youngin' in pajamas and thunderduns. When thunder comes, it rains cats and dogs. Dumb niggas like me never prosper. Prognosis of a problem child. I'm proud and well devoted. See, this Pyru shit been in me forever. So forever I'ma rep it, wherever, whenever. And I love you because you love my brother like you did. Just make sure you tell the story when you make it big. And if I die before your album drops, the result is an album that feels as immersive or engaging as a great film or stage play, but without the visual elements traditionally associated with those mediums. But there's one other place that this album needed to master in order to be a success, and that's the imagination. This is not a passive listening experience. We're a part of it as we go through this journey with Kendrick and his friends. That's what makes this album really special. That's why it sticks in people's minds so far after its release. The most unique ability about this album is its ability to engage the listener's imagination in a way that very few albums do. By eschewing the visual elements typically associated with cinema or theater, Kendrick Lamar makes the audience visualize what's going on themselves. So as he's telling the story, our minds are working, painting the picture, putting us right there with them. This process of imaginative engagement makes the album a deeply personal experience, as each listener brings their own perceptions and experiences to the narrative. This imaginative involvement is further enhanced by Lamar's vivid, descriptive language and detailed storytelling. Tracks like Shireen, aka Master Splinter's daughter, paint such a clear picture of the scene and the characters that the listeners can almost see them in their minds. It's all of these elements combined that make this album so great. You can call it literature, you can call it a movie, you can call it theater, and all of those would be valid because he uses elements from all of these storytelling forms to create a masterpiece. I'm sure that most people that clicked on this video have heard the album and experienced it with their own imaginations, but for those of you who haven't, check it out. It's really masterful storytelling on so many levels using so many different elements.